Hey, Mike Barter here, everybody's favorite mountain guide once again. And after a long and well deserved break, I'm back with some more climbing hints, this time about ice climbing. So stick around, this video is going to be basically about crampons, how to walk, how to move around with a little. And I'm going to throw in a bunch of safety techniques, things that you should already know before you start leading. But if you're going to start leading, it's stuff that's going to help you out a little bit. Because if you learn enough small stuff, it makes a big thing, right? And if you got a really good system, um, your ice climbing experience is going to be that much more enjoyable and that much more safer. So let's get on with dumbass tip number one. Alrighty. So what I'm trying to do here is I always want to keep these points in contact, as many points in contact with the ice as I can. So I have all my bottom points are nicely in contact. What I want to avoid, I really want to avoid doing, is walking like this, using the edges of my crampons, okay? Because if I slip, the consequences of even a small fall aren't good. Alright? Alright. Mike Barter's dumbass tip of the week number one. Alright? Use decent sized carabiners when you're managing ice climbing, okay? Avoid doing something I've seen before is these microbiners showing up, these kind of little things that are intended to save weight in the alpine in the summer when you don't have gloves on, and I have much lighter gloves on. They work pretty well. But I tend to, for my quick draws, go with these hot wires normally or whatever, but a nice, decent sized carabiner so that when I'm fumbling around and I'm trying to get things going and I need to get that rope in there just for my own sound mind well-being, then I can do that with a decent sized carabiner. The other thing is, don't try to save weight using micro carabiners for lockers, okay? So probably the smallest one I got is this puppy right here, which is still, pretty good sized carabiner. I can manage it with my hands. I avoid things like the magnetron because I can't pinch it with my gloves very much, and those stupid ball carabiners that Petzl makes. You don't want those anywhere near you in the winter or the summer for that matter. Okay, and then my other, I carry 3 locking carabiners normally on a personal ice climb and when I'm climbing with friends, and they'll normally be these great big Munter beaners, right, where I can manage them. I don't worry, I'm not that worried about weight. I mean, it's ice climbing. It's not like, micro rock climbing where we're 514ing it. So you'll make your life a little bit easier by using gear that's slightly bigger, and there's not a lot of place, for things like these micro hot wires and things like that. They're very difficult to manage with your gloves on, and if you're ice climbing for any length of time, you'll find this will save you a huge amount of time and big problems. Alright, let's pick number one.
Stop it! It's not funny. Oh, holy shit! Oh my god. You're videoing, aren't you?
Yeah.
Fuck!
Welcome to Canada!
I live in Canada.
Ice climbing in the Rockies!
Fuck me.
Okay, that's the screaming barpies, right? I mean, it's not pleasant, it won't kill you, but it'll make you wish you were dead. There's a couple things you can do, wear appropriate, if you're climbing in the Rockies and you go out every weekend, you don't care what the weather is, make sure you have gloves with appropriate insulation that still allows some dexterity with your climbing tools. An option there too is the crab claw type, where it has the first finger and the thumb, and then the other 3 fingers are all bundled together in one little sleeve. I know a few guys around here that climb those on really cold, when it's really cold weather. The other thing too is maybe having a couple pairs of gloves doesn't hurt. If you get some wet, you lose insulation value. The Wyoming glove sluts, you guys know who you are. Saw you up in Polar Circus. They'll have 2 or 3 pairs of gloves. So they'll have one for climbing, one for belaying, one for rappelling. and they switch those out all through the day. I don't know how that, I just wear one pair normally myself, and I might have a spare pair in my pack, either for myself or for my guests. The other thing you can do to help yourself out perhaps is try to avoid over gripping your tools, okay? So that's a real beginner's rookie mistake, is you put your tool in there, you know, and you need a good firm grip to place it, but then you're grabbing on it and you're giving it the death grip for 5 minutes, and you're just forcing the blood, and you're totally contracting your forearm, so that's going to burn out, and you're going to feel a burn coming on real quick. So once your tool's in place, just use it for balance. Another option too is to do something like, you know, put your tool up and then put your other one up, bang, hang in there and shake out. Get your hands below your shoulders, below your heart, shake it out and put some blood in that hand, and do that before you feel like they're totally frozen. When you feel the freezing coming on, quite often I'll stop in the middle of a pitch and literally just throw my tool in there, shake out one hand, switch, shake out the other hand, and that usually prevents it from being frozen. And if I do get to the top and it is frozen, it's not as bad as if I let it go for the entire pitch, you know, and for 45 minutes it just got worse and worse and worse, and I look like that guy. Anyhow, screaming barfies, technically not much you can do about it. It comes from, you scream, you'll get little man tears coming out every once in a while. It freaking hurts, man. It freaking hurts, but part of the ice climbing game. That's why we love it. Gets rid of the wimps. And that pain, that's just weakness leaving the body. There you go. And with this crampon, it goes right through here, right through the toe piece.
This goes through?
Yeah. And then straps around to the rings.
Two rings go through the double.
Yeah. And then back through one again.
Back through one.
And then just wrap it around like I did, so that it's just out of the way, you know. Yeah. So any extra.
Oh yeah.
Do the same to the other foot. Okay, if your crampons are continually popping out of the ice, it's probably because one of two reasons, 95% of the time. You want the crampon to go straight into the ice, and you want to maintain that position. If you get tired or lazy and you drop the heel, then the front points will drag out, and that happens a lot. People do that a lot. The other major problem is people raising their heel, okay? So you can imagine, you're up against the ice, and when this happens the most often is when you are trying to do a tool placement. You're trying to get that extra inch or something like that. You forget about what your feet are doing, or else you try and raise, and that's something like we commonly do in the real world, but we can't do that with ice climbing. So basically, when you raise the heel and you're right up against the ice, the toe of the boot will touch the ice and actually lever the ice out, or lever your front points out, right? And then they'll continually pop out. So just be sure that you're not doing one of those two things, and you'll have a much better crampon placement. And you're on, do the Duke, as I would say, like the John Wayne. Walk like John Wayne does, side to side, right? Another technique I like to use when I got to go up lots of undulating ice is this, what I call a half moon step. And I do this very exaggerated motion. And I can even put it slightly downhill when I'm on steep terrain. Still rolling my ankles to keep all the points in contact with the ice. Half moon, step. And this exaggerated motion is basically so that I don't trip up and I don't get lazy and then catch my crampons. Because when I'm doing this, quite often I may be, on hundreds and hundreds of feet of ice underneath me, and I'm not roped up. I'm just kind of walking uphill. Okay, the half moon. And people are fine for the first hour or two, but as they get more comfortable with the tools, their feet move closer and closer together. Okay, walking downhill once again. Okay, so when you're walking with crampons, if you're on a low surface, where there's not much hazard, you can get a little bit sloppy and get away with it. But as you move up further, and then you have more consequences on your run out and a higher potential for you to get hurt, you have to be a little bit more careful. And so some of the methods that we use for cramponing one is called the French technique, and I use the front point, like so, and then I step up, and at 3 o'clock position, up, up, right? And then every once in a while, I'll switch it up so that the other points, and then I'm transferring the weight onto the other one. And so it's kind of a rest step. Okay, one thing that I do almost all the time is that, especially when I'm ice climbing, is before I leave the stance, I don't want to be climbing up with no pro and then all of a sudden find myself slipping or falling and heading past the anchor and then having a fall factor 2 on my ice anchor, okay? Okay, here's something I see a lot. I know a lot of you guys are attached to this sort of, whatever you want to call it, tagline, chicken hook, emergency exit, spare parachute, you name it, call it what you want. But I see a lot of you guys have this thing attached to your harness, and you can wear it any number of ways. You can wrap it around your waist like this, or you can use a couple of carabiners and link it together and have it on the side of your harness. But the reality of it is the thing's a pain in the ass, okay? And it's always on there, and it's always in your way. And the number of times, you know what? Out of the thousands and thousands and thousands of days of ice climbing, the number of times that I felt the need to run into one of these things and hook it in somewhere to save my life is 0. And don't get me wrong, I used to have one of these when I started climbing on my harness too. But I realize now, as time has gone by, that I can get away with this because I'm tied into the rope. So if what you're looking to use it for is just to hook into an anchor, you can simply just clip into your anchor, use your rope, throw a clove hitch in. It'll do the exact same thing as your static cord there, or your static chicken hook, or your tie-off, whatever you want to call it. But it'll do it better because there's one thing, the rope has a little bit of dynamic play in there, so that's always a good thing when it's attached to an anchor. The other thing too is I may want to belay way over here. I've only got a limited range with that chicken hook, and I see a lot of you guys just hook in directly with that thing. Now, when you're wearing a rope, right? I know they call it a rope, but it's a piece of technical climbing equipment. Okay, so treat it as such, and now I can move whatever length I want, and then I want to come back, or I want to lean up against the anchor. I can change that quickly, and I can lean back onto the anchor and do whatever I feel like doing. The other concern people will argue, of course, is that they need to, clip off their tool really quickly in case a pick breaks or a crampon falls off or anything like that. But the reality of the situation is, that rarely happens, but it can happen. Or this day and age with you leashless mofos, you could drop a tool. But there's nothing that stops you from, let's say, bang, there's your tool, is just clipping the draw in. Then I would suggest clipping this draw into this end, sort of thing. Adjust the length, there you go. And then sitting back on your tool. Okay, and then just downset, put in your ice screw and get yourself out of whatever problem you happen to be in. Okay, so my first suggestion is clean up your harness a little bit. Get rid of that safety line, tag line, whatever you want to call it, okay? That thing's going to get in your way constantly and you're never going to use it, and there's lots and lots of ways to do the same thing if you're using it for emergency purposes only. Right? So that's dumbass tip for number whatever. See right here? That's called a dinner plate, right? That's a technical ice climbing term, dinner plate. Alright, well, I guess that's enough for this video anyhow. Stick around, now we have another one, and this one will be on placing the tools, like how to swing, and then on body placement, so that you know how to create a good stable stance. And I'll throw in a whole bunch of more of those dumbass ice climbing tips. So, hasta luego, vaya con Dios.